Before we start, I just want to say an introduction that you've never heard before about the difference between men and women and why it's important to speak about this. And to really understand the fundamental differences between men and women, if there are. What do we need this for? To resolve conflict and to bring awareness into our life and know how people behave. Because when you know that someone is different from you, then you interpret their actions in a whole different way than if you think everyone is like you. You agree? So, we're not talking about the difference between just people, but we're talking about differences in gender that, according to, Jewish tradition, they exist beyond race, beyond religion, and beyond, belief. Gender differences. Okay? Now, one thing that should be clear is the Torah itself states that the first man was both male and female. Where is the Torah stated?
Bereshit.
In Bereshit. When God created man, the verse states that God created him, and then it says God created them in the plural, in the same verse. And we know, Robert, was Adam created one or two? One. And then from the one, two came. So the Midrash says that they were like glued, the woman and the man. It was like two-faced. And then what God did is he sawed them in half. That's what the Midrash says. Now, whether you want to understand this on a literal sense or allegorical sense, it doesn't really matter. The point here is that the male and female qualities were one time meshed together. And that's really the natural state. That's where we should be. And then God separated the male and female so that there's more male and more female. But really this separation is not real. It just seems like it's separate. The real thing is that it's really one. And so when we talk about the differences, we have to understand the differences are supposed to bring to wholeness. It's not a bad thing that there's differences. It's a good thing there's differences. It means that each one needs the other person's qualities. But in order to really think that you need it, you have to appreciate it and see how it's lacking in your life. Okay, so that's why it's important to study the differences. Not to say why we're not equal. It's not like who's more valuable. We're both valuable. But it's how to study this. Like, how am I going to take some of that into me? Because that's really who I am too. Every person has in him some male, some female. It just happens to be that men carry more of the masculine and a little bit less feminine. And women are the opposite. Sometimes you find men who are much more feminine. Sometimes it's very feminine, right? And the other way around too. Some women are much more masculine. So every person has a little bit of both. But the point is here is that we study this in order to know what does wholesomeness mean. And we do this by studying the differences between men and women because it gives us insight as to, how do we become one, which is really what the point of having a relationship is. So let's start with the differences. What do you guys think is the biggest difference between men and women? I'm not talking about the physical difference. Obviously, we know that. We had Josh who pointed it out very clearly. We don't need anything as graphic as that.
Maybe emotional is the biggest thing.
Emotional? Can you give an example?
No, probably women are more sensitive to
very nice.
to
Sensitivity.
Things and men probably aren't.
You mean smaller things? You mean like a details?
Yeah, like a small little thing might hurt a woman a lot. You know what I mean?
So they're more sensitive, emotionally sensitive. Very nice.
Communication, how they communicate. Men would say it one way and a woman would say it another way.
Great. Okay, so with these classes, you have to understand the right answer is what I want to hear. That's the right answer. They're all right, but that's the right answer is what I want to hear. So if I can get it. Thank you. So I want to write this down. Just like Banaka. Communication. Okay, the Talmud says that 10 cubits of conversation descended to the world. Women took 9, and the rest of the world took 1. In other words, the rabbis are telling us, when you want to know the essential difference between men and women as far as communication goes, they say out of 10, say, cubits of conversation, women took 9 out of 10. Meaning, what does that mean?
The better communicators.
Yes, women talk more. Okay, that's what the rabbis want to give us an insight. They say women talk a lot more than men. Now, you may think this is true, not true. There's many studies that show that women talk up to 3 times as much as men do. Like a word, 21,000 words a day, as opposed to men who talk 7,000. I would have thought it's even more, but that's what the rabbis say. If you want to know it through scripture, the sages bring an example, just so we know, what does it mean they talk more? Is it more topics? Or do they talk about one thing more? What does it mean talk more? So the sages actually quote a story that appears in Samuel about King Saul. Before he became king, he basically, God led him to the prophet Samuel without him even knowing where he's going, because he was chasing after his donkeys who ran away, and he was looking for someone who's like who knows things, so he could possibly tell him where to look for the lost donkeys. And his friend, whoever was with him, told him, yeah, there's a seer. He's called a seer, someone who could see things, and he lives in this town. So they both go, and they want to find this person. And as they enter the town, they encounter girls to ask them for directions. And I'm just going to read you a quote from this story, and just pay attention to the detail. As they were climbing the ascent of the town, they met some girls coming to draw water. And they asked them, "Is the seer in town?" "Yes," they replied. "He's up there ahead of you. Hurry, for he has just come to town because the people have a sacrifice at the shrine today. As soon as you enter town, you will find him before he goes up to the shrine to eat. The people will not eat until he comes, for he must first bless the sacrifice, and only then will the guests eat. Go up at once, for you will find him right away." Did you see how many words they used to tell Saul where the seer is? What do you think a man? What do you think a man would do if he was asked, "Where is this guy?"
You better hurry up before you miss him.
Yeah, you better go up. Take a ride over there. Like 4 or 5 words maximum. They used about 30. So when we talk about women who talk more, we don't say that they talk about more subjects, or that we know that women talk more, they deepen the conversation. Okay, they use a lot more words to describe things than men do. Now, you might say, is this a qualitative difference or a quantitative difference? Okay, so they talk more, big deal. You know why women talk a lot more than men? Do you know the answer why? What's your name again? Ariel. Why do you think women talk more than men? Because they have to say 3 times everything, because men don't listen. No, there's actually a joke about this. One time this guy is like, he wants to see if his wife is listening to him. So she's sitting in the sofa, like in front of the TV, and he's like behind her, and he's like, honey, love you. So, nothing. He takes a few steps closer. He says, honey, you hear me? Nothing. He comes like right behind her. He says, honey. She says, yes, I heard you for the 3rd time already. He didn't hear her. Okay, so women that talk a lot more than men is actually something that the rabbis consider it a fact, and it gives us an insight into understanding why this is, because it's for a reason. It's not just a fact. The rabbis say in the ethics of the fathers, do not engage in excessive chatter or idle chatter with the woman. Now, you're not supposed to engage in idle chatter with a man either, but men don't talk excessively. That's the thing. With a man, they usually wrap up a conversation with, a few words. But with a woman, because conversation is so embedded in her nature, the rabbis had to warn man, don't, get caught up in idle chatter. And they said women because women like to talk. Men don't really like to talk so much. Okay. Now, you could accept this or not, but I want you should know that there is a question is like this: how did men and women acquire their communication styles? Are we just born that way, or is this acquired? Nature or nurture?
Nature.
Who says nature? Raise your hand.
You asked the question again?
Yeah. Is the fact that the communication style is different, is it more nature or nurture? Did they learn it, or were they born like that?
Nature.
You think nature? Everyone here says nature. Okay, so there are scientific explanation that says why this is so. That basically women, they develop their left side of the brain at an earlier age than men. The left side of the brain is a part of the brain that is about language, basically, and the right side of the brain is more like abstract thinking, about analyzing things in abstract matters. So women, and by the way, you should know that's why one of the reasons why women have a bat mitzvah at 12 1 year earlier than men, because they develop faster than men. Men develop later than women, in a more delayed fashion. But women develop the left side of the brain, which many times, they're much better communicators than men. And men are like systemizers. Men develop the right side of the brain, and the right side of the brain is like cause-effect. Oh, if this, then this. If this, then this. This is how I understand the world. They understand the world. If this happens, this is going to happen. That's how men understand things. Women understand it in a whole different way. Okay? So scientifically, women develop the left side of the brain at a much earlier age than men. What's the reason why men, it's hard for them to listen? And this is also their scientific proof of this. Because they get an added dose of testosterone when they're born. That makes it hard for men to listen. It's not just that could help a woman understand that it's not his fault. It's harder for men to listen. Are you listening? No. Men find it very hard to listen because they have this added level of testosterone than women. So this is scientific, call it scientific reasons. Now, if someone would come to me and say, no, they're equal, I will show him that he's wrong. You know how? Men care about things more. Women care about people more. Okay? How do I know this? Have you ever seen a woman work in a garage? Like a mechanic. That's the one job no one wants to step in. You know why? Because it's cars. It's not people. You're fixing cars. This is call it a man's job. They like things. Okay? Women like people. Okay? This is a huge difference. We'll discuss it more later. Because when it comes to communication, it makes a huge difference what you're into. You're into doing things and taking care of things, or are you into people? Okay? Now, whether or not you accept the fact that women talk less than men, or more than men do, or men talk less than women, it's irrelevant. You know what? It's irrelevant. The fact that the rabbi said it, they want to reveal a deeper truth over here. Okay? Even if you say scientifically it may not be true. And what's the truth? This is, the language reveals the nature. Difference between men and women. Women, the reason why they talk more than men is because their nature is nurturer. Rob, what's a nurturer? Taking care of things. What does a nurture type of nature do? What do they look for? What do they need? Attention? All right. Anyone else?
What's the question again? What is a nurturer?
Yeah. What does it mean that someone's a nurturer? What do you think that
They like giving,
They like giving.
but they need the resources.
Someone's a nurturer. They like actually connection. They're looking for connection. Okay, because that's what a nurturer does. They look for a connection. A connection is very important. A woman's sense of self, and this is what you have to understand, is very, very much defined by relationships. Relationships with people and the quality of those relationships are very, very important to their sense of self. And if they don't have good relationships, then they don't feel good. Okay? Men, on the other hand, they're less about nurturing. Call it the gatherers. They're about doing things. Okay? A man is busy doing things. And even though he has relationships with people, those people really matter to him. Also because he might care about them a little bit, but they're part of the doing. They're like in the scope of the doing. Whereas for women, it's a whole different level. No, it's not the doing, it's the people. It's the other way around. The doing is only important because of the people. Okay? A nurturer is someone whose nature is actually to build relationships, and form partnerships. Which means this is what their nature is, this is what they need. They don't need the doing. They need people. They need deep relationships. They need connection. That's a nurturer. Therefore, because a woman's nature is about partnerships and relationships, language takes on a whole different dimension. For men, language is passing information. Therefore, you see men talking when? When do men talk most, Tanas?
When they're drunk.
When they need something. When they need something. So they talk when they got to get, they either exchange ideas, information, or they need something, they talk. If they don't need to do something, they don't talk. Talking is not like intrinsically valuable for men. For women, it's the other way around. They talk for talking's sake. They talk because talking is connecting. And they need to connect so much, so they need that much more language and that many more words to connect. Whereas men, they don't want a connection. We could sit here 5 minutes, no one's going to say a word over here because there's so many guys here. Huh? Just fine. I'm okay. Yeah. But you put women in a table, the level of energy of the talking, it's like 10 times unstoppable. Why? Because women actually like forming relationships. Men are in a cave. They have to do it because it's part of the doing. They can't not have relationships because they need it, but it's not something they look for. This is why the rabbis meant, part of the reason that they reveal about women is that women talk a lot more than men. They meant to reveal this nature of women, that women are more oriented around relationships and connection. And that's why they talk more, okay? And this is an important difference for many reasons. One of the reasons is like this, that men need to know this. The Torah in one place commands a man to make his wife happy. Does anyone know where that is? The Torah commands a man to make his wife joyful, gladden his wife. Where does the Torah command a man to do this?
When?
Yeah, like when? In what stage of his life?
Oh.
All the time?
Yeah, all the time.
No, Yasin, what parsha?
I'm not saying. I think he should, but I'm saying, what would the Torah? Yeah, like what stage of his life does a person obligated to make his wife happy?
I think always.
When they married, when they just get married.
When they just got married, newlyweds. The Torah says that someone who's a newlywed, the Shana Rishonah it's called, the first year of their marriage, when they're newlywed, he shall not go out to war. It says he shall be home, v'simach et ishto, and he shall gladden his wife. Now, why doesn't the Torah command the woman that she should gladden her husband. Like, why is it all on him? It's not fair. Steve?
He's the giver.
I mean,
She's the receiver.
what, she doesn't need to
Man
give?
is more masculine.
She doesn't need to give?
Oh, because
The answer is very simple. And if you listen to what I said earlier,
if you give,
you should be able to
she'll
answer this.
reciprocate. Women's a reciprocator, so once you give the first year, she'll give you the rest of your life.
Very nice. I like that. Steve said that because she doesn't need to be told. In other words, men need to be told. Why? It's not their nature. Their nature is leave the house, go to work. Work for man is like a vacation. Okay? Oh boy, I'm busy. I know this guy, he doesn't have any work to do. Oh, I'm in a meeting. Everything's like he's talking to the register guy. It's like, I'm in a meeting right now. It's like a meeting, right? Guy's nature is to actually be out of the home. It's actually not to engage in relationship building. Because guys, what does this mean? I remember when I was first thought about, what are we going to talk about? Like, we're going to sit in the sofa. What am I going to say to her? I'm thinking about after I get married. What's there to talk about? And then I'm like, wow, so what's going to happen? It's like really thoughts that I had. Guys have these thoughts because guys, they're not trained to communicate well. They're not good communicators. And they don't like it. So the Torah had to command them, no. You sit home and your job is to make her happy. And the only way he's going to make her happy is, Yonah, how's he going to make his wife happy?
By staying home.
By staying home and what? Not just staying home.
Learning how to talk.
Learning how to talk. Learning how to open up. Learning how to listen. Because if you don't know how to listen, you're never going to form a relationship. It's a scary thought. Many people don't understand the listening. She could talk to you and you don't even understand what the heck she's saying to you. You could hear her, but you're not listening. There's a difference between hearing and listening. Hearing is hearing some noise. Hearing the tone of her voice. She's angry, she's happy, but you're not listening to the content. Okay? Men need, literally things said again and again to understand what she's even saying. Forget the deeper meaning, the Kabbalistic meaning. Just what does she even say right now? Ask me to repeat it. Okay? Men need to be told to focus on this because our heads are where? Outside. Doing, what do I got to do? What am I going to do? And she's talking to you. Listen to her. Okay? This takes time. So, one of the differences that men need to know is they have to work on their communication skills. It's not going to happen by itself. And communication skills are essential for a healthy relationship because without communication skills, there is going to be conflict. Because one person is expecting something from you and you don't even know what they're expecting. And you don't know how to give what they want because you weren't listening. Now, when you're not listening, you can't deliver what they need. They get upset. You don't know why they're getting upset. And then there's blaming, there's negativity, and there's a rift. Okay? But if you work on communicating, you say, wait a second. What the heck do they want from me? Why are they acting this way? What am I doing that's making them act this way? And you start working on it. And then if they do something that makes you start communicating. Listen, I want you to know, I feel like this. For men to say, I feel like this is very hard. They need to be trained to share their feelings, to say, I feel lonely. Or I feel like I'm not getting an attention in this relationship. I feel like when I'm coming home, everyone's ignoring me. I'm not even here. Men don't, they just keep it inside. They go to work. There's a build-up, no intimacy, no love. Okay? So one of the things that we need to know about the difference in communication skills is, first of all, that men need to work on their communication. Number one.
What about also social media? You mean whenever you text or something? Is there any way you advise us to speak to a girl by text or in today's world is not mainly men of communication. It's either text or sometimes call. But it's mainly texting the girl. Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I think that it's okay. You're asking, is that considered communication?
Kind of. I mean,
Yeah, it's more like exchange of information. Real communication has to be natural because it has to express your feelings. You can express your feelings in writing, okay, but it's not the same. You have facial expressions, you're there, your energy. You have to cut out as much of that and get to the real thing, you know? But that's, you know, it's something you have to work on. You have to be face to face. The natural thing, right? Okay, implication number 2. How men and women cope with suffering differently. I want to give you an example straight from the Torah. Jacob and Rachel. It says, when Rachel saw that she had borne Jacob no children, she became envious of her sister. And Rachel said to Jacob, "Give me children, or I shall die." Jacob was incensed at Rachel and said, "Can I take the place of God, who has denied you the fruit of the womb?" So this is a typical husband and wife. She's saying one thing, he's saying something else. Did you see what she meant and what he meant? I'll read it again. She said, "Give me children, or I shall die." He says to her, "Can I take the place of God, who has denied you the fruit of the womb?" He actually got upset. What happened here? Obviously, I'm not comparing us to our great, patriarchs. But just to illustrate this point, the Ramban explains, Rachel didn't mean she's going to die. When she said, "If you don't give me children or I shall die," the Ramban said, she was talking about women who seek empathy. She wants basically Jacob to say what? Be'ezrat Hashem, I'm going to pray for you. You'll have children. That's what she wants to hear, Robert. She doesn't want him to really give the children. Jacob, because he's a doer, because men want actions, they want results, he takes this as saying, you're not giving me children. Like she's asking for results. That's how Jacob understood it. So Jacob's reaction is that, wait a second, are you saying that it's me? Are you saying it's my fault we don't have kids? Sorry, I have kids from the other women. It's you. That's Jacob. Why? Because he's feeling that she's blaming him that he's not delivering. But that's not what she wanted to hear, the Ramban says. She wanted support. She wanted to be, what's the word, Yona?
She wanted to be heard.
She wanted to be understood and listened to. She just wanted him to say, "Oh, I feel your pain." That's what women want to hear when they're suffering. When they're coping, even though it may sound like they're blaming you, even though it may sound like it's all your fault and that they're suffering and you're not helping me, that's not what they mean when they say what they say. So a man who takes their face value, he interprets it like a man. Oh, she wants tachlis. She wants results. Because when men do it, they want results. They're all about actions. They're all about things. They're all about getting what they need. That's how men are. So they automatically, when a woman kvetches or complains about something, they feel like, oh, she's blaming me. Like I'm not giving her something that she needs to get. But that's not what they're doing. What they're really trying to convey is, understand me. I need you. That's it. So if you're able to kind of say, you're like, sit there and just be and take it in, you're going to make them feel better. They already feel better. And after an hour, you feel like, thank you. I love you.
So what do you think?
What did you do? Nothing. You didn't do anything. You sat there and you sincerely listened to them and you felt their energy. That's all they wanted. Okay? Now, if you don't understand that, you're going to make some big mistakes. You're going to say, it's your fault. It's not me. I'm trying. What do you want from me? Quit blaming me. That's our instinctive reaction. Defensive. No, you shouldn't be defensive. embrace it. What is she telling you? She's telling you she wants you, she needs you to understand her. Okay? So this is how women cope with stress. They use sometimes extreme language. They don't mean it. If you're smart enough and patient, and you'll be able to see through that. You'll be able to sit there and listen to it and not get upset and not be defensive. And you'll be like, wow, I feel for her. I really do. And that's it. You've done it. This right now, you took away everything. But if you think like a man, jump into it. Oh, what, me? What are you talking to me? Chutzpah, just last week I took you out. Look at all these I bought you. You just forgot the vacation 2 weeks ago. Everything's gone. That's it. We feel, instinctively, we feel like they are saying you're not doing what you're supposed to do. But that's not what they mean, even though that's what they're saying. Okay? So don't think like a man. And you read the language literally. Look at the behind the lines. Okay?
So are you supposed to respond if she's telling you her problems?
You're not. You're supposed to listen. This is what's hard for men. We want action. It's hard for us to listen. It's hard for us to go out to the store and, buy something maybe and listen. We don't like to listen. What? 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 Say it again? No. We don't like listening. It's our nature, And if you learn how to listen, you will learn what people need. And you won't have to do much. But it's hard. Because, again, we're men. It's a type of autism. Okay? You really have to look at it like that. All of us are autistic on some level. Okay? If you know you're autistic, wow. Okay? I need to overcome this autism that I have. I don't know what the heck they're saying. And a good way to work on that is to really be able to repeat what the other person said. Oh, so she's complaining. Oh, so the reason, so you're complaining, so this is very hard for you because of this. Yeah. Okay, now you got it. All right. If you're not able to do that, then you might not even understand what they're saying. Your mind is not here. Your body is here. You're on the phone. You're texting, right? But you're not here. This drives people crazy, by the way, both sides. But when you're here, be here. Okay? Don't be somewhere else. Be with her. So this is a very important point about communication skills, is that women usually deal with crisis through coping by asking, by expressing their suffering, or by sometimes saying things that they don't mean in order to create partnerships. Because remember, everything revolves around this. Partnerships. They want a partner. So what does a partner do when the other one's in crisis? They share the feeling. They're like, oh, I understand you. They don't say, I don't care. I gotta go. No. That would be like lethal. That's like, you're on your own. And I'm abandoning ship. Men cope differently with crisis. What do men do when they're in crisis? They may talk a little bit about it, but they usually go into their cave. Men like to engage in doing things to get their mind off of their business. They'll go for, a nice game, go out, do something, even like, something like that. Men are complete introverts when it comes to these things. Because why? The biggest weakness for a man is to tell about his issues, because man's sense of self is competence. Competence is being able to do things, right? For a man, he feels like, oh, well, I'm not competent. So he doesn't want to go and share to his wife, like, what's going on, because, no respect. He's gonna, where's the respect gonna come from if he shows a weakness? So men act differently. They're withdrawn. They start withdrawing. So women take that as like, he doesn't love me. He's withdrawing. But that's not why he's withdrawing. No, he just needs time alone a little bit, because that's how he figures things out. And women take that, he's like, He doesn't care. That's not true. When a woman sees a man withdrawn, she should know, stressed out. It's not you. It's like him. This is how he copes with it, right? Doesn't mean that that's how he should do it, but at least you know what they're doing in their actions. Implication number 3. Men need to feel respected by way of being told that they're competent. The worst thing a woman could do to her husband is to disrespect him and his, in the area of his competence. Not show him or say to him that what he does is important. Because men, that's what they have, is what they do. Their sense of self is what they do. So if a woman doesn't respect her husband's abilities and doesn't build them up and say, wow, the simple things that they do, and they always expect more, or they kind of what he does is not important enough, he needs to do more or whatever. This definitely undermines a man's sense of self, because men define themselves through their doing. So men need to feel respected in a different way that women need to feel respected. Women also need respect, but the respect they need is not the same type of respect as men need. Women need to feel loved and cherished, that they feel appreciated. Men need to feel respected, you're a genius. What you do, no one can do. Right? That's what men need to hear. Oh, yeah. Oh. Women, they don't need to hear it necessarily like that to respect competence. When a man feels incompetent, no confidence, no self-esteem. He could have family, everything is fine. He feels women, they don't necessarily work on that level. They, for them, is to have their good relationships. They feel really good about themselves. So, that's another difference. And the last but not least is what's called Bina Yetera, added understanding. It says that when God created the woman, it says it in this language. Vayiven et ha'isha. God built the woman. From the word even is the word binyan. Which comes from the word bina, which is the shoresh ben. What does ben mean?
Son.
Ben with a yud, ben with a nun is son, but ben means
in between.
In between. Meaning, women have an added capacity to be able to see the detail in things. They have an added intuition that men don't. For example, if women can see little things like facial expressions and say that, that person is like this and this and that. Where men, they don't see that. They don't have it. Sometimes your spouse will ask you to go to the cupboard to get a bottle or something. You could be sitting there looking for 5 minutes and it's right in front of your face. You will see that. It will happen to you. Where is it? Where are my keys? Oh, they're right there. Oh. Yeah. They don't see details, right? Women have a binai Torah to pay attention to small details, which is actually makes them more emotionally intelligent, because they know what's going on in the other person. This is why women are actually better takers of children than men. Not just because, they can bring children, they also know how to nurture, because they know he's upset, they know what's bothering them, they know how to cater to them. Men, they're not at all paying attention to these details. They don't know what's going on, right? So this difference between men and women about detail is very, very important, especially because men need to work on this. It's something that they need to have. They need to have a thing for details. Because if you miss the details, and this is why listening is so hard, because listening is detailed. It's like you have to listen to every word. And if you miss a few words, you miss the whole thing, right? You can't just hear 50%. You got to listen to every word. And it's very hard for men to do this. Yeah. Something that... Oh, yeah. The example that the Torah gives is that Sarah, she saw what Abraham didn't see in how to raise their kids. When Isaac was born, the Ishmael was already 13. Okay, and when Isaac grew to the age of 3, the Torah says that they made like a feast that he was like being weaned. And then she saw, the Torah says, Hagar's son Ishmael, it says, playing metzachek with Yitzchak. He was like playing with him, laughing, jesting. And the Torah doesn't say what exactly happened there. But the Torah says that Sarah's reaction was very, very charif. She's like telling Abraham, take this woman and her son and out. Yitzchak is not going to be in the same house as Ishmael. Now, what did she see? That to throw a wife and a kid out of the house, she must have seen something that really disturbed her. It says that she saw in him signs, idol worship, murder, and promiscuous relations. It's not that he was there already doing it, but she saw in him character, Sarah. Abraham didn't see it, and God had to intervene and said, Abraham, whatever Sarah tells you, listen to her voice. Like, it wasn't something that Abraham even picked up on. How did Sarah pick up on it? Okay, she was a prophetess, but besides that, women can see character, women see details, they see actions, and they see the bigger things. Men don't see it as much, right? So men need to work more on paying attention to detail. Look at the face, listen to the words, look around, be alert, look at the details. Don't be up in your thought somewhere, be down here and pay attention to the details. And this is something that women have naturally and men have to work on it. The women have Binah Torah, they're very intuitive, and that's why men need to listen to their women. Because always consult with them. Oh, what do you think about this? Because they see something you don't. They see the inside. You may see things on the outside. They say men excel in chokhmah. What's chokhmah? Wisdom. Wisdom means abstract knowledge. Men excel in that. Women excel in binah. They see the inner dimension that men don't see. The two things complement each other. Chokhmah, binah, v'dat. Right? So women bring in the binah, men bring in the chokhmah, and they have to complement each other. So basically, to wrap this up, yeah?
Rabbi, so Bina is what? Because we said Chokhmah is abstract knowledge, and
Bina is to see. Bina is, it includes several things. It includes seeing the inner dimension in things, seeing the details. Many times men, they see one thing. They're focused on one thing. The women, they see everything around it. They see all the details around this thing. And men are like focused on the one thing. So Bina is the ability to see details, to see depth. And Chokhmah is more like to take abstract knowledge, to be able to take in abstract knowledge from the outside. So all in all, we just named a few of the many differences between men and women. But what's the important thing is to have this awareness. Right now you're going to walk out, you might remember some of these things, you might not. But if one thing you remember is, we're different, and I need to learn more and more awareness about how we're different. If that's the one thing you take out, then it's a huge thing. Because that awareness, it's going to come in at the right time when you're either getting married, in marriage, and you're going to see things that happen. And whenever you see suffering, remember, suffering is the best gift because suffering leads to awakening. And you need to wake up. Whether it's suffering from yourself to yourself or from an external source, wake up. It's a sign. Take care of it. So B'ezrat Hashem, we should all have healthy relationships. We should all grow. B'ezrat Hashem, blessing in our lives.